what you're dealing with even first of all, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
Now, if the problem is the companies, if they're being pressured by the government, so if that's real, and if people on the right are like, yeah, go get them, oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this. Because this will be used on you. Yeah. Let them support that. Let these fucking dumbasses, because Jimmy Kimmel's a leftist, let these dumbasses think it's a good idea.
Do you know him, by the way, or
yes.
no?
He's a good guy. Jimmy's a good guy. He's a smart guy. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Joe Rogan's next moves are, because, to be honest, guys, the whole comedy scene in Austin is basically imploding right now as far as its reputation goes. I don't know about the actual ticket sales at the mothership or anything like that. Maybe it's doing fine. But as far as like the reputation of the Austin comedy scene, it could not be more in the fucking toilet. And it's not just lefties like us that are at this point calling out and making fun of these Austin comics. It's guys like Shane Gillis. It's guys like Matt McCusker. It's guys like Andrew Santino, and even lefties too. Stavros took a shot the other day, right? But a lot of prominent comedians, and frankly, people that are way funnier than Joe Rogan, people that even used to associate with Rogan, low key, like Shane Gillis and stuff. Even they're like, you know what? This isn't it. This is hack material.
Santino used to be on Rogan all the time.
Yeah, a lot of these people, are kind of like, I got to be honest about this. This isn't really it anymore. This is kind of just descended into like hack nonsense, where the height of humor is getting up on stage and saying like the T slur or the N word or whatever, and acting like, oh, can you believe it? I did it. I went there. I bet you didn't think I would go there. I went there. And it's like every fucking act is just the same shit. That's really started to, catch on with people. People are recognizing that. And also, in addition to these other comedians, this channel Elephant Graveyard has really went viral with a series of videos just absolutely lampooning and destroying in depth the entire, kind of theory of comedy that these guys purport to elevate, and all of their bullshit that they have popularized along with their dog shit style of comedy, right? So these videos are racking up tons of views. They're going viral. It's really affecting not just Joe Rogan, but even like Duncan Trussell. There was a section in the new Elephant Graveyard video about how Duncan Trussell's basically sold out too, and everything he used to stand for he's thrown away in order to just like, ride along with Joe Rogan.
Was always my favorite.
That was Elephant Graveyard's point. It was like even Duncan Trussell, who seemed like such a free-spirited, free think. Now he's out here like defending Peter Thiel. And if you look at his channel, the views are in the trash. People are punishing him for it. People are punishing a lot of these comedians, except for Joe Rogan, who's obviously still like the biggest podcast in the world with normies that aren't totally keyed in. He's going to survive. But a lot of Joe Rogan's, like, the comedy scene around him is starting to kind of fall apart. And I do ultimately think that the whole scene is going to fall apart. I eventually think Joe Rogan will probably have to leave Austin. Or he'll just choose to, because he's like, all right, this isn't the cool place to be anymore. Maybe I'll head to Nashville now or something.
I think it all comes back to, obviously he made a bunch of bad decisions on his own, but this Tony Hinchcliffification of comedy, I think it really comes back to that one fucking rat bastard weasel, Tony Hinchcliffe. He's a closeted gay guy who hates himself, and all he wants to do is shout the N-word and just throw trash on people, right? He's not funny. He's never funny when he's doing his roast. He's just mean. All he does is he goes up there and he's like the most insecure small guy, and he's just mean to people. And there's a way, like Jeff Ross is hilarious when he's roasting people. There's a way to go up there and be so fucking funny when you're tearing somebody a new one. This guy is just a fucking twerp, man. He's just a mean guy. He's just a fucking prick. And Joe Rogan let him become the gatekeeper of his entire comedy scene. He gave him the key to the castle, and he was like, you be the doorman. All right. And this little weasel got on the biggest power trip you've ever seen in your entire life. And he started a show with Joe Rogan's old co-host. A lot of people don't know the Joe Rogan Experience was started with a co-host. Joe Rogan kicked that guy to the curb because the fucking audience hated him. His name was Brian Redband. That dude became the co-host of Kill Tony. Another time he got fucked. He didn't put his own name in the goddamn podcast so the other guy could take all the credit again. Kill Tony. Now it became, the biggest show in Austin where everybody's just a huge asshole. Remember when Bill Burr had to go out there and rip them a new one? He was like, nobody's funny in 60 seconds, you fucking idiots. You're not actually out here trying to find out if this guy's funny because you made it impossible for him to be funny so you could sit here like mean bitches, right? That's what they do. And that was what was the beginning of the end for fucking Rogan, right? This dude crawled a hole in Joe Rogan's asshole, set up shop there, and was like, I'm gonna decide what's fucking funny and what's comedy and what's not.
Yep, and another devastating element of the recent Elephant Graveyard videos, where they basically expose how a bunch of Tony Hinchcliffe's material isn't even original. He's basically ripping off a bunch of better comics, like paraphrasing their older material from like the 90s, and trying to make it seem like he came up with that shit. He's one of the worst comedians out there. And there's even clips in that video too of him getting like visibly uncomfortable when someone else is being way funnier than him. One of the people that he's supposed to be mocking, he hates that shit. It really drives him crazy. So either way, the point is that this whole scene is collapsing. They got Trump elected, but now Trump doesn't give a fuck about them, and all of these shows are kind of paying the price as people realize like it's not really cool anymore to be a lackey of the president, this fascist piece of shit in charge of things. I do think this is starting to be reflected in Joe's commentary, Zach, and I think there's probably no better example of this than this clip, which just came out today from his new conversation with this Taylor Kitsch person. I'm not really familiar with that dude, but either way, I was kind of shocked to see the comments that Joe Rogan makes here about Trump and Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm also interested in looking at the comments because the reaction is pretty interesting.
So what you're dealing with even like, first of all, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's
Right.
fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
Now, if the problem is the companies, if they're being pressured by the government, so if that's real, and if people on the right are like, yeah, go get them. Oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this because this will be used on you. You don't think that the fucking globalist lizard people who run the world are sitting here going, great, what do we got? 3 years? We'll wait this out. We'll wait this out. Yeah. Let them say.
And by the way, this is the most like tepid technique to criticize Trump. Don't actually criticize Trump directly, but be like, hey, imagine the next president. Imagine some, shit lib is in office. Would you want them doing the same thing that Trump is doing? Like, you can't just actually attack Trump. You can't actually call out his authoritarianism. You have to invent, this future reality where some blue-haired trans person is doing the same authoritarian shit, and pretend like, well, you'd be against that, right?
Yeah, he's still a little fucking lapdog for the president.
Yep.
He still doesn't want to not get invited to Mar-a-Lago. He still wants to be cool with all these guys that he's cuddled up with. And at this point, it really just does come down to this is his social circle now. Nobody wants to interact with him that's not totally diehard MAGA. So even though Joe Rogan knows he's going to pay a price for his audience, if he doesn't even give a more throated critique than this, because he has been the free speech guy. I've got a clip saved where we could talk about how he was talking about fear mongering, that it was going to be a disaster if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz got into office for the issue of free speech. But he also isn't willing to, disrupt his access to these really, really powerful guys.
Yep, 100% has to, kind of still show an insane amount of restraint when criticizing what he admits is a crazy thing. He says you're crazy if you defend this, but he won't actually go so far as to just straight up criticize the authoritarian nature of the administration itself, just the crazy people that support it. It's not like Joe Rogan ever supported, Donald Trump. It's not like he helped him get elected or anything. But all these crazy people out there that would support this, what a bunch of loons. But this does go on a little bit. And Joe even goes on to directly compliment Jimmy Kimmel.
The government should be involved in censoring people's speech.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Let them support that. Let these fucking dumbasses, because Jimmy Kimmel's a leftist, let these dumbasses think it's a good idea and we should celebrate that.
Yeah. That's the most toxic shit I keep seeing online, where people are like, yeah, shut him down.
Yeah.
So going back to this Jimmy Kimmel thing, there's a lot going on with this.
Do you know him by the way, or
yes,
no?
he's a good guy. Jimmy's a good guy. He's a smart guy. He's a funny guy. He was always very funny on when he did that fucking Windy City Heat thing.
I love that. Such a good movie.
I think he tried to distance himself from that.
Oh, big time.
Like very, very, very successful because it's a 25-year prank.
What's his name? Perry?
I'm not even sure about this Windy City movie or whatever. Have you seen that?
I saw a screenshot from it where he like sniffs a woman's ass, and you could tell it's like real like dirtbag like comedy, like the kind of shit that would have been popular 25, 30 years ago when Jimmy Kimmel was like first coming up and it was like edgelord shit, like, oh, I'm gonna like this woman's unsuspecting and he like kind of like gets underneath and like pretends to sniff her ass and some shit like that. Some shit like you would never do it now, but if you've watched a lot of like 90s shit, you're like, yeah, people would do crap like that back in the day for like shock value and to just be edgy.
I've never heard of that, but either way, Joe definitely coming out
never
there.
sniffed an ass, so if anybody's curious.
Nope. But yeah, I mean, definitely that was pretty full throated. Not only straight up saying it's crazy to defend pressuring, comedians and the kind of, shit that we saw, exerted the pressure on Disney and ABC and all that stuff, but also straight up saying Jimmy Kimmel, good guy. I know him. Joe said he's funny, which some people in the chat seem to, take an issue with. Kimmel is a very funny guy. Okay, Joe. So again, Joe's already getting backlash. This was posted like an hour ago, and he's already getting backlash just from mildly complimenting Jimmy Kimmel. And it's like, I don't think Jimmy Kimmel is like fucking hilarious or anything. But I mean, clearly he's funny enough to have the job that he has, and he has he's decent at his job, I think, is the point that Joe Rogan was making. Like, and probably Joe's basing the funny comment off of some of that earlier stuff from like the 80s. And then, yeah, obviously, I don't watch late night TV, but I do think Jimmy's probably one of the better late night TV guys. Like, I prefer him over Jimmy Fallon.
He cannot be worse than Fallon. No way.
No, he's way better.
I don't watch him. I like my experience with Jimmy Kimmel is only that of the Academy Awards that he's hosted for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then the deluge of Jimmy Kimmel content that I've sifted through over the last like fucking 72 hours. But in the Academy Award setting, the guy was pretty funny. I have never, ever laughed at a single Jimmy Fallon joke.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I have either. I mean, maybe I chuckled at the Oscars. I don't remember. But, or no, I mean at the Kimmel joke at the Oscar. But I've never laughed at a Fallon joke. Rogan would never be invited by Kimmel. Okay, again, who cares? Like, Joe Rogan actually showed some level of principle by defending him, even if that's true. But again, his audience is so brain dead. They're all just these MAGA idiots now, at least the ones that leave comments, I guess, that they can't even understand the concept of defending someone on principle. Again, even if you think fucking Kimmel is the least funny, he's a total hack, he's a coward, he would never have on Joe Rogan. At least you should still be able to understand someone who pretends to be in favor of free speech and who is himself a comedian. You think you'd be able to understand that person standing up in principle for another comedian. This person said he wasn't joking about the unvaccinated. What was the punchline? So this is someone engaging in cancel culture by, dredging up 3-year-old comments, 4-year-old comments, taking them out of context in order to, paint Jimmy Kimmel as someone who like wanted all unvaccinated people to die, or something. Just the same sort of tone policing, bullshit, cancel culture stuff that these people claim to be against. In many ways, founded their entire movement against. Here they are just casually engaging in it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the article from this morning that Edinger Mentum put out, but he was talking about a lot of the things that you illustrated there about how the right wing has gone woke. Like, they have done their exact version of going woke, and that's a big point that the Democrats can hammer them on, right? Because it wasn't so much the ideas that were, creating the hysteria for the Republicans. It was their backlash to it. It was the idea that it was annoying to constantly be like checked by somebody. And if the Republicans are going to start to do that over their fucking bullshit issues that aren't popular, the left needs to be prepared to hammer them for it. And one last thing on Rogan, because I just couldn't miss the opportunity to play this clip. The guy has changed his tune so quickly. This was just 1 year ago. Just 1 year ago, Gavin. This is what Joe Rogan had to say.
I hope, I just hope the shit starts to turn around.
I do too.
The ship that starts to turn around, they're talking about censorship.
Too, but I don't think it turns around if Kamala Harris gets into office. I think they clamp down more. I think the same stuff that they were trying to do with Twitter, they'll try to do with something else, with other things. They've already openly discussed it. She's openly discussed that the same rules have to apply to Facebook. They have to apply to Twitter. And that Elon Musk could lose his privileges. And like, there's so many wild things that they're saying. Tim Walz said that the First Amendment doesn't apply to misinformation or hate speech. Okay, well, it certainly does. It does. You know, sometimes people say things wrong. And the goal of the First Amendment is you say something wrong, and then this guy who's an expert says the right thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what about the guy that you supported doggedly who wants to sue everyone who doesn't say what he wants?
Yeah. And again, like I can criticize that Tim Walz quote. I remember when Tim Walz said that.
I did criticize it.
Yeah, I could tell that Tim Walz was kind of like, he didn't really know the right thing to say in the moment. He was kind of trying to say something that would appease everyone. I don't even know if that's actually what he believes, but I did disagree with that Tim Walz quote. Then again, being an intelligent person means that you can, on one hand, disagree with that and also recognize that obviously Trump is a far bigger threat to free speech than fucking Tim Walz for saying that shit, which, yeah, like isn't what I agree with, but it still represents a far, far less of a threat to the First Amendment than everything Trump has promised and delivered on doing.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, just massive backpedaling from Joe Rogan, a guy that people, try and pedal out every once in a while to be like, look at him, he said the right thing. But to be honest, the only thing that you can take away from Joe Rogan is that you should never take anything that comes out of his mouth seriously.
Yeah. And in my opinion, the reason why it's important to, take a look at him saying the right thing, quote unquote, these days is because I do think it shows him, being aware of the backlash that's increasingly mounting against him. Like I said, those elephant graveyard videos are racking up millions of views. These other comics are taking direct, open shots at the Austin comedy scene. He feels that incoming fire, which is why he now feels the need to moderate and be like, I never said I was against wokeness, and what I'm more than capable of criticizing Donald Trump. I can do it right now. So he's trying to walk back a lot of this bullshit and act like he is just this independent guy who didn't totally sell out his fucking credibility by literally endorsing Donald Trump and platforming him for a softball interview.
Yeah, I think that the idea that Joe Rogan is a comedian at all is really up for debate. I think it could be challenged by a lot of people. I don't think that people really identify Rogan as a comedian. I think that's something that probably rubs him the wrong way because he very much personally identifies as a comedian. But one thing I got to point out to you guys, right, is they did that Riyadh Comedy Festival booking, and they reached out to just about every comedian I've ever heard of in my entire fucking life. And Joe Rogan was nowhere to be found. He wasn't on that list. I looked at it multiple times. Rogan, now he maybe he'd been asked and he didn't want to fly to Saudi Arabia. Maybe that was what happened. But for the kind of money that they were offering people like Bill Burr, for the kind of money that they were offering the top billed acts, you'd think he'd consider it. And nowhere to be seen. All of his buddies, Dave Chappelle, Tim Dillon, who got apparently uninvited from the Riyadh Festival after talking shit on the Saudi government. Those guys were all there. All the actual comedians. Aziz Ansari, right? The fucking dude that used to jerk off in front of people whose name escapes me. That guy's back. He's Louis C.K. He was on that list, right? These big titans, the actual big pinnacle performers of comedy of Joe Rogan's generation, all there. And this dude's left out because nobody thinks he's funny at all.
Yeah, I really don't think Rogan's primary talent is comedy at all. I mean, he's obviously a good podcaster. He was. I don't think he is these days, but he definitely was very talented at hosting a podcast. Can't take that away from the guy. I think he's undeniably talented at being the voice who does the MMA commentary at UFC events. Like when it's not Rogan, I kind of miss Rogan doing that.
Amick does a good job. Come on.
I'm just saying, personally, I enjoy his commentary. But I'm not a huge UFC guy either. I just, associate him with that. So I'll give him credit for that. Comedy, no, it's not. He's not funny. He doesn't say things that are funny off the cuff. If you listen to a guy like Kevin Smith, he'll just say funny shit constantly, even if it's not planned, even if it's not scripted, including while he's on a show like Joe Rogan. He'll just be talking and telling random stories about what he did this morning, and it'll be funny. Joe Rogan is not capable of that. I've never heard Joe Rogan just like be riffing off the cuff, and I've never thought that was funny. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes he'll have a good scripted bit that he can deliver, like from back in the day, 2014 or whatever. But
bro, that Harvino Weinstein,
that was his golden era. The Harvino Weinstein shit, that was actually a good bit. But again, as far as just like off the cuff riffing, it's non-existent, and that's to me the real test of a comedian. Yeah. Can you just be funny, like unannounced, unplanned? Can you just say funny shit? Like I said, Kevin Smith can do that. That's just one example, but there's lots of comedians that can. I don't think Joe Rogan can.
out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there.